As I mentioned earlier, this is the fourth week in a 7-week fall study series based on the book, This Life is Joy by Dr. Roger Teel. There's much more to the book than we're even going into on Sunday. There's study groups that are incorporating, along with the 7 pillars of truth that we're focusing on, there are 9 portals of transformation. So it's a great book with a lot of very meaty stuff in bite-sized pieces that you can really apply in your life. We started talking about the first week, this instant is love. That God is love. Love is all there is. And so to pause and remember this instant, all that is everywhere, this instant is love. The second week, we talked about this being is light. The power of being able to look in the eyes of another and to recognize and behold that light coming back, to look in the mirror at yourself and to see that light. Last week, we talked about this world is consciousness. And so this week builds on that because this week we go to this idea is substance. This idea is substance. Substance is, you could say it's the creative essence of the universe. And that ideas are like seeds, packets of potentiality, blueprints of possibility that are just waiting to be downloaded, to come from the unmanifest, the world of idea, and to be downloaded and held and embodied and fleshed out until they are alive and well right here. And so when we think about ideas, everything has its beginning in an idea. If you look at the chair you're sitting on, it started with an idea. This podium, some of you may remember almost 2 years ago now, there was a really big podium that was just too big for me, and I wanted a different podium, so we drew it on paper, and then for a while we actually had one that looked like this, but it was cardboard. And so then we found a wood maker, and so we literally saw the idea go from a concept, and then on paper, and then on cardboard, and then to wood. And so everything, everyone has on a pair of shoes, a different pair of shoes, they all began with an idea. That box of Kleenex began as an idea. So an idea is a necessary part of the creative process. It's our imagination begins to take root and form those ideas, and then things come to life, they come to birth. I really was struck by the power of an idea when I was in junior high school. My class took a trip to Washington, D.C., a field trip. And one of the things that we did when we went in to the White House, we visited the National Archives. And I like that kind of stuff, so I was just amazed that we could go in those rooms and see all this stuff. But the room that really captivated me in the National Archives is called the Rotunda. It's this big, beautiful, giant room. The lights are more dim. It's cooler to preserve what's in that room. And as we walked in with great reverence, I couldn't wait to see what was in that room. What's in that giant room are 6 pieces of paper. I thought, this is a big waste of space. I mean, you really could put some more stuff up in here. But when we begin to learn about those 6 pieces of paper, they were the Declaration of Independence, the United States Constitution, the U.S. Bill of Rights. And so I realized that whole room was dedicated to an idea that formed our country, that formed freedom, that formed our democracy. And as a kid, it really made an impression on me how an idea that somebody wrote years ago on that piece of paper had taken a life of its own and had created a reality that we were living in. And so it is with ideas. That is the nature of ideas, that they go from the unmanifest. When Jesus said, as it is in heaven, so shall it be on earth, as it is in the unmanifest, the field of infinite potentiality, so let it be on earth, so let it be in physical reality. But there's a space between that, and guess what? You are that space. You are a big part of that space of being able to download. I think technology so mirrors our capabilities. And you know, how many of you have apps on your phone? Well, you can download these things and then do different things. Well, so it is with us. You download ideas. We download higher ideas and then literally can begin to create and do different things. So that's the nature of an idea. There's a powerful saying by Oliver Wendell Holmes that said, a mind that has been stretched by a new idea will never go back to its old condition. Isn't that beautiful? Jesus said it this way. he talked to an audience that would understand when he said, you cannot put new wine in an old wineskin, because both the wineskin and the wine will be lost, for it will burst. Because you see, what would happen is when they made wine, they would put it into a fresh skin, an animal skin. But after a while, it would begin to harden, and it would take on a certain shape, and it became fixed. It was set, established in place. So if you had this old one that was already hardened and fixed, and you poured in the new, which was still in the fermentation process, and you know what happens in that process? It begins to expand. And so if you were to put the new and it started to expand, it would just burst it open. Well, what he was talking about was not how to make wine, but how to apply this to really comprehend it as a part of who we are as a spiritual being. He's comparing this to us and to our consciousness. That when newer and higher ideas are ready to be born, you can't hold those in the same old consciousness that you had before. Einstein said you can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it. And so it's telling us that we're continually meant to evolve, to grow into more and more. There was literally a time in my life that I said these words out loud to someone. I said, I feel like I am a giraffe in a little VW Beetle, that every leg is out of a window and my head is out of the top. I said, I just feel like I'm going to burst open because I know that there's so much more that needs to be expressed, and yet my life at the time felt that little. Well, what was beginning to happen, I was going through a transformative process, and something in me was growing me. It was so funny today, we were talking about this, and when we came in, Robert said, look, and there was a little fuzzy caterpillar climbing up the, up the steps. I thought, perfect, it's about transformation. That's what we're talking about. Somebody took it out so you wouldn't see me do the Pentecostal holiness dance up here if it got under my feet or on my leg. But it's all about transformation. that we're continually evolving. And so the goal is to cooperate with this. How many of you can recall an idea or a time, something you really believed and you've seen it change? Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, had an idea. She was born into a family where a lot of the women was sick. She believed she inherited that sickness. She believed she was a sickly person. She had tuberculosis. Now in the 1800s, that was a death sentence, could be a death sentence. She had tuberculosis, was in the end stages of her life. She's very sick. But yet she has 3 children. She does not want to die. But her idea is, I'm sick, I'm going to die. But she asked for help. In asking for help, she was guided to go attend a tent revival where a man by the name of Dr. E.B. Weeks was traveling from the Chicago School of Metaphysics. She sat down, and hearing the course of his speech, his delivery, she took away one thing, and that one thing was, I am a child of God. If you know it, say it with me. Therefore, I do not inherit sickness. Now that was a paradigm, a reality-shifting idea for her. And it spoke directly. Have you ever had an idea that you heard and you maybe heard it for the first time, but you knew it? Every cell in you said, yes, that is so true. Every cell in her said, yes, that's true. And so she let go of one idea, and she laid hold of a newer, higher idea. And it took her a while. You don't just say, oh, well, I think I'm going to adopt and embrace this idea, because the old is down in the subconscious level. And when we download or we receive these higher ideas that come from the superconscious, the infinite mind, it takes a while. We really work with that idea through affirmations, through denials, through prayers, and little by little, it begins to fill us to such an extent, we don't have to worry about trying to get rid of the old idea, because now we've embodied the new to such an extent, the previous can no longer exist at that vibration. Do you see what I'm saying? Because you've become a new vibration, a new being. The scripture says a new being in Christ, a new being in Christ consciousness is what it's talking about. So that's the whole way, that's the power of an idea. So how do ideas work? How do we cooperate with receiving ideas that, ideas change people, and ideas change our world? Some ideas will change their world, but every idea will change a person, can change a person. The first thing that we do in working with ideas is the power of asking. The scriptures say, ask and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be open. Ask, seek, knock. A-S-K, ask. There's power. There's a necessity in asking. Because when we ask, you know that old saying that necessity is the mother of invention. Necessity is the mother of invention because when a genuine need shows up, the scriptures say, before you ask, I will answer. Well, to me, what that means in cosmic language is the minute your mind can perceive a need, the equivalent of that must exist. That's the universe has to work that way. So the minute the mind comes up with a question, there is an equal response. But it's for us to ask and then to be able to receive. Roger shares a beautiful story in his book that I want to share with you. He said this story was published in a magazine a number of years ago where they said they interviewed a man well advanced in age. He'd been living in the same little house in that city for many decades. He told the reporter that one day he stood out on his front porch and surveyed his humble property. He became troubled by the condition of the sidewalks running along the street in front of his house and the one that extended up to his porch. The concrete was crumbling badly and the weeds were growing through the cracks. He realized that these sidewalks were a significant hazard. There was a legitimate need. So this man asked in prayer. He talked to God as though he were a good buddy standing right next to him. He conveyed this situation, this need, and asserted that it was high time for new sidewalks, and that should be no big deal for God. After all, with God, all things are possible, and it's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, he said. But then he put legs on his prayer. He went back into the house and called his children. He arranged for his son and some of his grandchildren to break up the concrete and haul it away. Then he had them smooth out the ground that remained. Next, they brought some 2x4s and laid these 8-foot lengths of wood end to end along the outside, and they secured them by pounding stakes in the ground. Thus, they had created the form, the seed, ready for the idea to be fulfilled. He then looked up and said, "Okay, God, I've done my part. It's up to you." About a week later, a cement truck came barreling down that man's street. The driver needed to turn right at the street corner next to the man's house. But the driver was going so fast that in trying to make the turn, he turned the truck over on its side. It would be a while before the cranes could come and pick the truck up, and so it was crucial to offload the cement. The homeowner simply and happily told the driver that he could just deposit that cement right in the place he had prepared for it. He says, an idea becomes substance when we have embraced it so completely that we have created the form in mind. True story, powerful story. I read a story a few years ago about Phil McCrory. Phil McCrory lives in Alabama, and he is a hairdresser. One day he was watching television, and he saw the Exxon Valdez when it was in Prince William Sound, and remember the horrible accident, and oil is going everywhere. And he sat watching these otters just be pulled out and soaked, almost killed with all of this oil on them, and it broke his heart. And he said, what can be done? How can we help? And as he began to watch, he said he literally felt a thought come into his mind and say, if the hair of an otter can absorb that much oil, could the hair of a human do the same thing? So he went to his salon. He gathered up all of the hair clippings he could find. He then went to his wife and asked for a pair of pantyhose, and she gave them to him. And so he stuffs the hair in one of the legs of the pantyhose, ties it off. Then he finds a container, puts water in it and some oil. He drops it inside, and sure enough, it soaked up every bit of it. Long story short, it is now patented, and it is one of the number one things NASA now uses for oil spills. They found that 1 pound of hair can absorb 1 gallon of oil in less than 2 minutes. The products they had prior to that took 48 hours to do it and did not do as good of a job. A need. So the first thing is when we ask, when we recognize there's a need, ask. Ask. Don't be afraid to ask. But then what about those times we ask and the idea really doesn't come or doesn't work. Have you ever experienced that? Okay, 7 of us again. I think we've all experienced that. I was thinking about that this week, and I recalled a time when I was in elementary school. And I saw a film. Remember the old reel-to-reel films in school? Well, they showed a film about chickens and hens and how they laid eggs. And if the hen would sit on the egg and keep it a certain temperature, then something magical happened. It would then burst open, and this little teeny bitty would come out. And I was mesmerized by that process. So I went home, I ran to my room and put everything up. I went straight to the refrigerator and I got an egg. And I put it in my hands and I began to carry it around. I couldn't wait until I could get it warm enough and carry it long enough for it to hatch. So when my parents noticed what I'm doing, my mom says, "Darlene, why are you carrying that egg? Where did you get it?" And I said, "Oh," and I told her about the film and how I got this egg and how very soon now we were going to have a little baby in the house. And she very sweetly said, "Well, honey, it doesn't work that way." And she explained why. Mama, I saw it on television. You just wait. You just wait. I'm going to carry it long enough. I'm going to sleep with it. She said, "No, you're not. You're going to drop it and it's going to fall on the floor." I said, No, I'm going to carry it. So what do you think happened before I went to bed? I dropped it. Splat. So then I'm angry with my mother because, of course, it was all her fault. It would have worked if she hadn't jinxed me. So I'm angry. Next morning I go to school and I ask my teacher, and the teacher explained to me why it didn't work that way, that you needed a fresh egg. So because my teacher had to be smarter than my parents, of course she was right. So then I believed it and went on about life, and I've never since taken an egg out of the refrigerator and tried to keep doing that experiment. But so here's the thing. As a kid, I had an idea that excited me, an idea that it motivated me to run home, get an egg, extend some effort, and make this happen. Well, it didn't happen the way I thought it would. Does that mean I did something wrong? No. It means I learned something incredibly valuable. You see, every idea, some ideas will change the world. Every idea will change you. That our ideas are continually changing us, and the quality of the ideas that we bring forth have to do where we are in our own spiritual unfoldment. That you're always in relationship with yourself, who you know yourself to be, how much you know about how the world works. All of these things go hand in hand with the quality of ideas that we bring forth. So I learned the part of asking. Ask when there's a need, when you're looking for an idea, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid if you drop that egg on the floor and it didn't work out, because what I learned is there was another law already at work, the law of incubation, the law that I was trying to do something that was counterintuitive, so to speak, to that law, so it was never going to work. But I learned, and now I would know how to do this because I'd go get a fresh egg if that's what I was called to do. So ask, the power of asking. The second way to align ourselves, the first is asking, having clear questions. What is it that I'm seeking? Give me the idea. What do I need to know in order to? Hold those questions and be prepared to receive ideas. The second thing that we do is we get really clear about our purpose and our intention. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a man who was impassioned with an idea. He had such an idea for equality, for a world that he called the beloved community, that he became the instrument for that idea. That those qualities began to express through him because that was his intention. I was talking to Rhoda this morning, and she said, I love to sing. She started singing as a child, and she said, but the one thing I always want is for people to be moved. Well, because that's her intention, because that's her purpose, because that's the idea she serves, I would say people are moved through her, that it really does work. It really does work powerfully. So the quality of the ideas that we hold, ask yourself, what is it? Am I seeking to embody abundance? Do I need compassion? Do I need love? Do I need peace? What is it that I need? And then let that be my intention. Help me embody those things, because what will happen is opportunities will come up for you to bring those ideas forth. So clear questions and then being clear about our purpose and our intention. The third part of being in relationship with ideas is really understanding our full nature. We truly are multidimensional beings. We're spiritual. Eric Butterworth says we're spiritual beings in human form having infinite potential that we really don't yet know. I don't think we've yet scratched the surface of what we are capable of as a human species. Would you agree? That there's so much more yet to be discovered. So to understand that at all times you are existing in three worlds, at all times you are in relationship with three worlds, three realities. The first is the outer world. You are right here now in a chair, in a physical place. You're a physical body. So you are in an outer world. But you're also in an inner world. If I have your attention, then your body's here and your attention here and you're listening to me. But you could very well be sitting here and you may have gone to your happy place long ago. Or you're off thinking about, God, I hope she hushes. I'm just really hungry. I can't wait. Or when I get home, is it warm enough to mow the lawn? So you're in your own inner, everybody in here is in their own inner world. So you're in your outer world and your inner world. So let's demonstrate these before we go to the next step. I want to volunteer, and I'd like a man, if a male will volunteer. Okay, don't all rush up at once, but come on, Andy. Thank you, Andy. Go right ahead. This is Andy, recently moved here from Washington, D.C. Would you give him a hand? So for the purpose of this experiment, Andy, I'm going to kick you in the shin. And for the purpose of the experiment, it needs to hurt a little bit. Is that okay? So I'm gonna back up so I can really get my leg into it here. And I'm gonna kind of whack you in the shin. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. So if I get a running start and why are you fidgeting with your watch?
Film this so I can take her to court.
So so let's pause a minute and see what's happening. So the outer world, Andy volunteers, he comes up here, you're all here, we're all seeing the same thing. Now the inner world, some of you are sitting there thinking, wow, church just got good, she's going to kick a man. Some of you are thinking, I have never seen her do this. This is awkward. I'm uncomfortable. I don't like it. Some of you are thinking, this is not right. She shouldn't kick him. So you're having if there's 200 people here, there are 200 inner realities, inner worlds going on. All of you are totally in your inner world thinking about what's getting ready to take place, right? Andy is in his inner world. He's probably thinking, why in the beat did I volunteer? I should have let that guy get in the chair. He could have got kicked in the shin. He's probably thinking, geez, I'm glad I didn't get in that chair. But he's probably thinking, is she really going to kick me? That's going to hurt, and that's my bad leg anyway. And if she does that, I don't know, and I'm nervous, and what if it hurts, and then I get upset, and people. So his mind is probably going all over the place. He's having his own inner reality. I'm having mine. I'm having a really good time. Because I know what's ahead. I know I don't kick you yet. So every one of us clearly live in our own outer world and our own inner world. It's really important to understand that. I'm not going to kick you. Would you give Andy a hand? Thank you. Thank you. So we're talking about being in a relationship with ideas. We live in two realities, but then we also live in a third reality. That third reality we could call a cosmic or infinite, that each and every one of us right now, you are not completely breathing yourself. You are not beating your own heart. That we are here because we are sourced by a higher source. That we are cosmic infinite beings. And it's on that level when Jesus said, all things are possible. Because I don't know about you, but I haven't yet mastered the all things are possible. Anybody else? I'm still in that because I believe it, but I have to say, I believe it. Lord, help my unbelief. Help me. Help my ideas. Help me learn. So we're always existing in a physical world. We're always existing in our own inner world, and actually that's where we spend the majority of the time. And we exist in a world of infinite possibility. But what tends to happen is, let's just say you're in your car. Your physical body is in your car. How often do you stay in that car in your inner world? Do you run ahead and think about where you're going? I used to catch myself the minute I left the grocery store, I'd be driving home thinking about the order I was going to unpack my, I was way ahead. Or maybe you had a conversation with someone last night that didn't go well and you're driving and you're thinking, just wait till I see that person again. I'm going to tell them what I thought. And then they're probably going to say this. And when they say this, I'm going to say that. But they might say this. And if they say this, see, all of this is going on. And yet you're driving. It's a wonder. We're dangerous when we do that. We're out on the highway acting like we're in the car and all this is happening. So this inner world, most of the time, we are in a state of being a reactor. Would you agree? That whatever is happening in the outer world, there is physical domain, there are circumstances and situations, but in the inner world, there are our beliefs, our thoughts, our perceptions, our consciousness. So almost all the time, we're reacting and responding all the time. Well, the goal is for us to begin to shift that and move to a higher position of creator. If you take the word reactor and you rearrange the letters, you get creator. It's the exact same letters. You see, it's the exact same life, but it's a matter of realizing that I can be fully in this world. It says, Jesus said what he said, I'm in the world, but I'm not of the world. I'm no longer entangled. I'm not just in reaction mode. I respond, and yet I realize I've been sent for a purpose, he said, and that purpose is to download higher ideas, to embody things that only come from the higher divine mind, we might say. The things you seek, such as a consciousness of abundance. You seek peace, you seek love, you seek a sense of worthiness. You cannot buy these things. You cannot put them in your pocket. You can't put them in your purse. They don't exist that way. They exist as states of being. So it is with ideas. The things that we're seeking will come to us through this higher realm if we create some space, which is the third point. Richard, would you give us the song? So it's about creating clear questions. It's about creating clear purpose and intention, because the quality of your purpose and intention will open you up to the ideas that come to you, to what you're serving. And then it is absolutely necessary for us to create space, to create an opening that we're no longer reacting. But it says, the scripture says, be still. Be still and know. Still that reactive mode. Still it. And now you become this opening for higher ideas to come through. I know something is happening in our world, and there are higher ideas that are being anchored and embodied in people. I saw a video this week that brought me to tears because it was a multitude of women, hundreds, looked like thousands of women from Palestine and Israel walking together, beating drums and singing. It was powerful. You see, people around the globe, it's just not us, but a cry has gone up. The questions have gone up. How can we create a world that works for everyone? How can we create a world that respects life? How can we create a world that allows us to share our gifts in a way that is mutually beneficial? That cry has gone up, and the ideas for how to do it is pouring forth. It is simply seeking clear, conscious vessels that will get still enough to receive those ideas, and then have the courage to put feet on those ideas and embody them in the world. I think if you're here for that purpose. We're going to take this song into a time of prayer where we really anchor this, and most of you know it. It's called Gentle Spirit. Gentle Spirit, flow in me. Gentle Spirit, grow in me. Gentle Spirit, show in me. Gentle Spirit, sing it and put an S on it. Flows, grows, shows, and knows. Gentle Spirit.